Utopia, market with balloons and Balloon Business Bootcamp. That is ballooncourse.com. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make a small indoor or outdoor arch. You guys keep asking me for this. You love the really big double doorway one, but you keep asking me how to make a small one, a U-shaped one, and so here we go. This one is, I did this one very tall, but I also will show you how you can make it shorter. You don't have to keep it this tall, but here we go. We have the U-shaped kind of arch. So this is what we're going to learn today. Come along and join the fun. First, we're going to go to the hardware store so I can teach you what supplies you need. We are doing this start to finish. All right, here we go. Okay guys, so let's talk about wood. You ask me this all the time, and so I want to give you the right information so that you don't have a disaster on your hands when you try to do an outdoor install. So what you want from wood is plywood, okay? It shouldn't cost you that much. Like this one here, it's 30 bucks. The thickness, you see this is multiple ply, it's 4 ply. It's got a pretty decent thickness. You could even go up a little bit thicker if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Now, here's what's important about it. So first of all, you'll notice that this is coming, okay, this one is thicker. I like this one better. This one's $35. But it's, I don't know why it's thicker, but it is. But this one's good too, here. This one that we're looking at. So here's what we want to talk about on this. Now, first of all, you see this sheet is 4 by 8. That means that if you're setting your bases at 2 foot by 2 foot, which is what I keep telling you to do, that you're going to get 8 bases out of this one piece. So 8 out of 30, 32, let's say for sales tax, that makes it about $4 a piece, right? Am I doing my math right? Yeah. Let's see, 2 by 2 out of 8. Am I doing my math right? How many pieces you'll get? So this is 4 you're going to get. Yeah, I'm doing my math right. Just checking. As you guys know, I am not a numbers girl, so you're paying $4 a piece for the wood for the bases. That's not bad. And definitely it's a good reason to do it from the 4 by 8 plywood than trying to do it from individual 2 by 2 pieces, because that's going to add up a lot faster. Now here's the thing. They will cut it for you at the hardware store. Sometimes they might give you a hard time. Sometimes they might tell you they're going to charge, 10 cents per cut or whatever. Most of the time, if you ask them nicely and it's not busy, they'll just do it. However, I can't promise that. But even if they're charging you $1 for a cut or something, it's worth it because you're still going to save money in the end. Okay, so that's the wood. Now let's talk about what wood not to use. And this is very, very, very important. This right here, okay, this is a kind of press board. You see that it's kind of like mosaic-y looking? Do not use this. Now, why am I saying don't use this? I'll tell you why. Because once you put the screws in and you get it outside, if it gets windy and there's torque, right? Torque is kind of the force, the diagonal force on the pole from wind. So if there's torque and you're using this, then what's going to happen is the screws are going to pop right out and take a piece of this press board with it. Okay? Now, even worse than press board is MDF. Okay? So MDF looks like this. Let's see here. We gotta go down a while here. MDF is the really cheap stuff, and you're going to think, hey, that's what I want to get because it's so much cheaper. There's a reason it's cheaper. Okay? So here we go right here. This is it, not this here, this is stuff other people put. But this is it right here. And what I want to show you about this is basically what it is just sawdust that's been glued together. It's little more than cardboard. And you see, this is particle board, right? And it's only 15 bucks. But you know what? You use this, you're going to have a disaster that's going to cost you more than, paying another 15 to get the right stuff. Why? Because this has no structural integrity, and again, you have just a little bit of pull on that pole from some wind, and those screws are popping right out. Okay, so really important that you want something like this, like a real good, solid, multi-ply plywood. This one's probably a more expensive cut of wood. I would guess that this is probably a $40 piece, but Yeah, you see this one's only a 3-ply, I think. Hard to tell if this is a 3 or a 4-ply, but you see it's probably almost an inch thick. Right? This is a good thickness. This will be good for like heavier base plate if you want. And the first one that I showed you, and we'll go back to it, is good for a lighter base plate. Now remember, you can always put those free weights on it to give yourself more weight, okay? So you don't have to go with the with the more expensive plywood. You could go with the $30 one, and that'll be sufficient. Just make sure it's plywood and make sure that it's multiple layers, okay? That is going to give you more integrity in your base to stand up against wind. And that's really important, because even if you have weight, if the wind is taking the screws out of the base, what are you gonna do? Okay, so use the right wood. Very, very, very important. Can't see me smiling because, you know, it's COVID era, so this is how you know this is a new video. And, you know, what are we gonna do? I hope you can understand me through the mask. Okay, and moving on.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. This is the threaded pipe. Okay, you can see that it's got threadings on it. That's why it's called a threaded pipe. They call it, in some places they call it a nipple. So as you can see, it comes in a lot of different sizes. Generally, I'm gonna go with either the 8 or 10 inch, okay? I find that, I think this is the 6 inch. Yeah, this one's 6 inch, it's a little bit small. The 8 inch is probably your best bet, because that just gives you just enough room that you can really get, you know, you want to duct tape your pole into it, and so you can really, you know, you have enough room to do some good duct taping. And when you do that duct taping, and we'll show it later, but remember, you always want to do it on the diagonal. But of course, when we get to assembly, you'll see what I'm talking about there, okay? So that's the threaded pipe that you want. All right, so this is the 8 inch. If you only have the 6 inch, it's not a tragedy, you're gonna be fine. 8 inch is better, IMHO. Okay, and then we have the flange, which if you're in the UK, I'm sorry I'm saying dirty words, but I don't have another name for it. This is what we call it in the US. Anyway, so here we have the flange. And the flange, this is a 3/4 inch flange. What they're measuring is this piece here, and the reason that it must be 3/4 inches is for your 3/4 inch pipe to screw into it, right? So now you see here that basically you take the flange and you're just gonna screw it to your wood. You're gonna wanna use wood screws. If you're handy, you know a little bit more about construction, or you have somebody handy in your life, you can use carriage bolts. They're a little bit more complicated. They require being cut off, and I think you need like a drill or something that you can like kind of recess the wood. So that's a little bit more advanced. Honestly, I hire people to do that part for me. So I couldn't even show you because I don't do that myself. That's too toolsy for me. But if you have somebody handy in your life, go ahead, use carriage bolts instead. If you don't, then you're gonna wanna get the screws that go with this. And I would just ask ask the guy at the hardware store which screws to get for this that are gonna work with the wood you get, because you wanna make sure you have the right length of screw. And so you're best off to inquire about that when you purchase your flange and your wood. So there you go. All right, guys, so let's talk about that EMT, okay? I'm trying to answer all the questions that you guys keep asking me again and again and again. So this is the EMT, okay? That is the metal. It's, I think it stands for electrical metal tubing. It's pretty lightweight. It's awkward to fling around because it's 10 foot long, but it's pretty lightweight, okay? It bends pretty easily. And right here, they have EMT benders. Now, for making this arch, you don't need it, but just so you know, this is the tool. All right, but let's talk about this. So it comes in 10-foot length. And 10 foot right now remember, it is a commodity, so the prices do fluctuate, you know, according to what the metal's going for. But right now, it's $3.69 for 10 feet. So if you cut your poles for the arches, and let's say for the large arch, you could get away with about 3.5 feet, you could get 3 pieces from one pole. If on the other hand, you're doing the smaller arch, then what you're gonna want is I would recommend 6 or 7 feet. in which case I would just save that extra 3 foot that you cut off of it and use it for something else later. Now, you can, again, ask the people at the hardware store to cut it for you. It also comes in like a 5 foot length or a 3 foot length. What length is this? I don't know, but I wouldn't get this because it's the same price as the 10 foot. So why pay more, right? I mean, so let's see. There is a cutter. No, I want to find the EMT cutter, if I can show you what that looks like. Maybe it's over here somewhere. Okay, so let's talk about cutters. We mentioned it before, but I just want to show you these. So for cutting the metal, you're going to want something like this. It kind of looks like a C, and then there's a blade in it, and you're going to kind of tighten it around the metal, and then you kind of like tighten and twist it around, tighten and twist it around. I would ask your hardware professional, if you're not handy, which cutters to get. And then you've got one like this that it's kind of more like scissors, and this is for the plastic. This is for the conduit, for the PVC. It would also work obviously for the PEX, but not for the metal. For the metal, you're going to need one of those kind of C-looking ones. And then you see, I mean, there's like various ones. So again, I would ask your hardware guy or girl, your hardware professional, which is the best cutter for the materials you're buying.
Clap when you're ready.
What's that?
Clap when you're ready.
Okay. Okay, so now I know you guys have been wondering, okay, wait, we got 2 pipes going up. How do we get the arch shape? Well, my friends, I'm glad you asked. The way that we're going to get that arch shape is, now, again, I really need to reiterate that this only works if you're making the single doorway arch, the single person arch, the one that looks like an upside down U, okay? Because this material is not strong enough to do an entire arch out of. It can only do a short piece, maybe 10, 12 foot across or so, okay? I mean, you could get a thicker one. Sorry, we're by the dingy thing, but this in here is material. It's called PEX, okay? And this is, as I fling it about. So this piece here would be perfect as the top of an arch. And as you'll see, I mean, basically what you're going to do is you're going to tape it to the 2 sides. And you're going to want about that much overlap in the way that you tape, just to really make sure you have that stability. So you see that it's really only going to be the top of the arch, and the rest of the arch is going to be straight up and down with those poles. So, but you can see it's really flexible, not a whole lot of integrity, so that's why we don't want to make the whole arch out of it, but it's perfect for the top of the arch, and the balloons go around it very easily. This is a 1/2 inch thickness. So if you don't want the, let's see, this comes in a length, I think this is 10 foot, or maybe 12 foot. I'm not sure, can you, oh yeah, there it is, 10 foot. Okay, this is a 10 foot length. You have that up, here, you want that right side up? There you go. Okay, so this is a 10 foot length. Now, if this is not sufficient, and sometimes it's not, right? Because sometimes you want to have 10 inches across the top. Well, you don't have enough to do that at 10 inches, 10 feet across the top. So in that case, you may want to get the roll, and then you can cut it to the size you want. There are cutters that you could use. Let's see, this right here, in fact, is a PVC cutter. It just kind of looks like this, right? You can just go, and it's a pretty soft plastic. Obviously, I'm not going to cut it, and you just go snip, snip. And you can see this pair here, they actually have it on the wall so that you could cut in store. Okay, but if you're going to be doing a lot of balloon work, I recommend buying your own. So that is the PEX. People ask me all the time, what is PEX? Here we go, now you know. Okay, so you remember all those pieces that we got at the hardware store? Now we're going to put them all together. I'm not going to show you how to put the flange onto the base plate. You can probably figure that out. Or I'll make another video showing you step by step. But here we have the base plate. There's the flange. The whole thing's been painted black, okay? So that way it's just going to kind of fade in. Even though we're using bright colors, you'll see that the base plates, your eye just kind of like forgets that they're there, and if you want it to, you could cover it with some tablecloth later. Alright, and here we have our EMT. It is taped to our threaded pipe, our nipple. And you see that I've covered the entire thing in black duct tape like we were talking about at the store. Now all I need to do is I'm just going to screw it in. And so you see I'm using this as one unit. Instead of screwing in the nipple and then putting in the pole, I have these permanently taped together. I use it as one unit. It's going to make your life so much easier. Okay? And then just do that, make sure it's tight. Same thing on this one. Okay, so these are tight. Now, remember that PEX we talked about? Here's that PEX. Okay, this is a 10-foot length of PEX. So when I put it up, you see this is going to make a single doorway kind of arch that's going to go up about 10 feet. Okay, and the width from one leg to the other, if I have it spread this way, it's about 5 feet or 6 feet. Okay, so I'm very short. It's very hard for me to work above my head, so I'm not gonna. Here's what we're gonna do. And here's the thing, guys. Make the balloons work for you. They work for you. You don't work for them. You don't have to like stand up on the ladder. No, bring them down. Bring them down. All right. So I have duct tape. As you can see, my duct tape today is a bright blue. I did this on purpose so that you guys could see it. And I also want to show you how it really is going to kind of disappear. Okay, people freak out about the colors of their frames. You really don't have to. Black is best, but don't freak out. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We wanna have a good 10 to 12 inches of overlap, because that's what's gonna make it really sturdy and is gonna help against the wind. Okay, so you see this does not go down inside. So we want a good 10 to 12 feet of overlap, because that's going to make it really sturdy. And you see, since both of these are 1/2 inch, you can't telescope it. We're going to have to tape them together. Okay, so all I'm going to do is line it up, and you see I've used this piece of PEX a million times. That's why there's still tape on it. And I'm just going to kind of put it side by side like this. First, I'm going to take some of my duct tape. And initially, I'm just going to tape it, right? I mean, right now, I'm not actually securing it. I'm just kind of holding the place. So you saw that just went straight across. That's not going to be acceptable for the long run. That's just to hold it while I do this side. Because I don't want to tape it. I want to have it secured on both sides, and then I want to tape it up real good. Okay. So, we're going to do the same thing over here, overlap to there. Okay. Now you see, this is not secure. This is just kind of held on right now. So in order to secure it, and this is really important, can you get a good close-up on this? Okay. So, you want a good long piece of tape, and here's how we actually secure it. So first of all, I would put like another piece right here before I start, again, just to hold it steady while I do the actual securing. Okay, those bits of tape, that's not going to do it. It can pull up out of those if it starts to sweat, if it's hot. So this is why we're going to secure it this way. Really important that we do it on a diagonal, okay? Really, really, really important. And the same thing when you tape the nipple, diagonal. That way it's not going to sweat and pull out. So you really want to just like tape the crap out of it, really, on a diagonal. And you do want to kind of try to cover the ends of the metal so that it's not going to pop any balloons accidentally. And of course my tape is all folding and stuff. Normally I would be more persnickety about that, but for the moment I'm not going to be. But normally you would want to keep your tape from folding up because that could affect the stickiness and the longevity of it. And I have a tendency to over-tape. I'd rather over-tape than under-tape. Tape is cheap, and you can always just slice through it with a knife to take it apart. And in fact, we'll show that because you guys ask me that a lot too. That'll be a different video, how to take it down. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so you guys always ask me, what size is that going to be? What size is that going to be? What size is that going to be? Well, the size depends on how far apart you put the legs. So if I wanted it to be framing a single person, then it's probably going to be about 12 feet high. If, on the other hand, I need to widen it a bit, then I can make it, this is probably about 6 or 7 feet tall, wide. Probably about 10 feet high. Now, a word. If you go too wide, you see it's going to fight you. So you could put weights down on it, but generally you want to try to stay within its happy place. Alright, something else. You guys asked me a lot about the weights. So let's talk about those for a minute. Ow! They're hot! Holy shit. Okay, so this is a 10-pound free weight. I like the ones that have the holes in it because it just makes it easier to carry them and move them around. You have asked me before why I don't put it on the center and then tie the pole in. And the reason is this. It's a pain in the butt to move these things around if there's a dead weight in the center. They're not comfortable to move. So for ease of transportation, for ease of setup, if you do it like this, and then you just stick the weight on it, catty corner, you're going to have better results. The weight's going to disappear under the balloons, and it's going to be easier to move. And if your clients are going to try to move it for any reason, it's less likely that they're going to break it. So I've talked to you before about how we do this, but we're going to do it catty corner. So usually I'll take two 10-pound weights, and I set them like that. This isn't going anywhere. This is super stable now. So you don't need to make big steel base plates or anything like that. You do need good wood, like we talked about, and you do need to make sure that those screws are all the way through so that it's not going to pop off with the torque. Because now this is staying put, and if there's going to be torque, it's putting that pressure on that flange. Okay, so that's what it looks like when we don't have the balloons on it. Okay guys, so let's talk about sizing these balloons. Now, you ask me this all the time. How do I size the balloons? How many pumps is it? I generally use a machine, and you'll see that in a bit, that sizes the balloons automatically for me. This machine I wouldn't be able to do my business without it, but it is very expensive. So once you know that you're going to do this and make money with it, then it's probably the first big investment you should make, other than my boot camp, of course. But seriously, it's a really helpful thing. However, when you're just starting, you probably don't have that. So let's talk about sizing balloons, because there's two different kinds of garland that we do, right? We have organic garland, where you don't want to size the balloons. You want them all random sizes. And then we have what we call classic decor. And with classic decor, it is really, really, really important that all the balloons are perfectly sized, right? So you might vary the size so that you can get different shapes. For example, a Roman column where the base and the top are wide and then the center of the column is thin. You would vary the size of balloons, but for each layer, you want to be very precise that the balloons are exactly the size that you want them. And that is probably the most important thing with classic decor and making it look good is the consistent sizing. So let's talk about different ways to size. You see here I have just a common box, and I'm going to show you this in a second. But something else that you could get is you could get this, what we call a holy box. You can get this off of Amazon. You can get this from Silver Rainbow. They're the ones who make it. And you see that this box, hello, has holes of different sizes. And so basically you inflate your balloon and let air out as you push it through, right? And so it's got 6-inch holes. It's you know, just got a whole bunch of different holes. So that's why we call this a holy box. These are not that expensive, maybe 40 bucks. It's a great investment. They fold down flat like a, you know, like one of the whatchamacallit thingies. That's the official term for it. The whatchamacallit thingy. They fold down flat like the you know, windshield thingies. And you know, and then it just goes into its little case, which comes like this. So this is a really handy way to do it. But what happens if you don't have one of these? Your thingy is on the way. What are you going to do? Are you stuck? Is that it? Can you just never do balloons? Is it too bad? Do you have to call that client and tell them, hey, I can't do it because I don't have a sizer? No, you do not. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take a box. Okay, now you see this was just a water box. I did tape up the sides to hold it tight because you don't want the box getting all like floppy and weird when you're trying to do it. And now what you need to decide is how big are those balloons? We're going to do the balloons to 6.5 inches. We're going to use 11-inch balloons and we're going to underinflate them to 6.5 inches. Why are we doing them so small? Well, you'll see when we start building the arch that if we were to use the balloons at 10 or 11 inches, it would be completely out of scale with the arch and it just wouldn't look good. And when you're making a small arch like we are, you know, where it's going to curve, if you have really big balloons, you're going to have a gap there. So the smaller the balloons, the better it's going to look, the easier it's going to be. So, okay. So, tools that we need. We need our handy dandy marker. We need, you probably can't see my clear ruler. We need a ruler or a tape measure, whatever you like using. And we need some kind of knife. Okay, and like I said, ooh, I am just butterfingers today, aren't I? Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of put it in the center of the box, and we're just going to measure out, here we go, 6.5 inches. Okay, and we're going to make a square. A lot of people think, oh, I have to draw a circle. I'm not good at drawing circles. Nope, make a square. Okay, 6.5 inches, and we're going to do that all the way around. I'm sure you remember from elementary school that a square has all 4 sides exactly the same. So we are making our square, 6.5 inch square.
Good there.
Okay, and any box cutter will do whatever you got. That's what you should use. You don't need to go get something special. I really love these kind of cutter things just because it fits nicely in my hand. But whatever kind of box cutter you got, that's exactly the perfect one. And then, you know, you're just going to cut the box. And it's okay if it's not perfect. I'm not good at cutting perfectly, so, you know, it's okay. Okay, and there we go. And the result is that we have a hole. Ideally, if you can get that hole to be more square than I did, that's better. But you know, it is what it is. So, hello, hello. All right. So there we have our hole. I mean, you know, you could sit there for like hours, like trying to make it perfect. It really doesn't matter because the main thing is that this is going to make sure that all of your balloons are the same size. So it's going to size them all the same, even if it's not perfect. Okay, so now let's talk about inflating the balloons. You can use a hand pump. You will be exhausted. Your arms will hurt, but it is doable, right? You just The main idea is that you're going to just pump it up all the way until it's, fully inflated, a nice little teardrop shape. When it is a teardrop, when it's a drop shapelet, that is a fully inflated balloon. Right now, this balloon is just about 11 inches, right? If we get to where it looks like a light bulb, that is a very fragile balloon that is going to pop. Anyways, what we're going to do is we're just going to take the balloon and we're going to slowly let the air out, controlling it. Okay, we're not going to we don't need to make noise. We're just going to slowly let the air out. Until it just goes in. Okay, and that's the right size. When it just kind of goes in and we're not forcing it or pushing it, that's the right size. Just make sure that you're holding on to it so that you're not going to lose air as you're reaching up to tie it, right? So a lot of the times we're going to do duplets, which means then that we're going to have two balloons inflated, size, tie. So in order to do that better, it's really a lot easier if you have some sort of inflator. So right here, this is the Precision Air. This is a really great little machine. I use this as my emergency machine. It's the one that I keep in my car. Try that again, shall we? Right, okay, so now we have two balloons inflated. You see, I'm just gonna kind of wrap it around my finger to hold on to one while I'm using the other. Now let me get this out of our way. And let's bring back our box and let's show what it's going to look like when we're doing a duplet. Okay, and a duplet, remember, is two balloons tied together. So we're going to look, it's like we're trying to shove it in, but at the same time, we're letting the air out until it just goes in. There we go, that's it. Okay, and then I'm going to, like I did here for now, I'm just going to kind of wrap it around my finger. Like so. You see that? And that's just going to hold it tight until I'm ready to use it. Now we got to get this balloon to be the same size. Again, remember, the most important thing with classic decor, if you want it to look professional, the balloons have to be sized properly. There we go. And so you see, now we have two balloons. Now the balloons have different visual weight, so they may not look like they're exactly the same, but they should be about exactly the same. And then we're going to tie it into a duplet. Now you guys remember how to do this? And to tie it into a duplet, what we're going to do is we're going to take the two balloons, kind of like we're hugging ourselves, we're going to crisscross them like this. Wrap it around, 1, 2, like that. And then you're going to just tie them. Now, you always want to pull from the nozzle side and not from the balloon side. That's because you don't want to put a friction tear in those balloons. So we're going to pull them tight just like that, okay? So here we go. We've got our first duplet. So these are really squishy. Like I said, these are 11-inch balloons. We sized them to about 6.5. All right, so that's how you can size using a box. Again, it's really important that you size your balloons consistently when you're doing classic decor. If you're doing the ice cream shake, if you're doing any of those things, then those sizers are all important. If you're doing organic, doesn't matter, you just need them round. But we're going to do something today that is going to be more linear. So we need to size our balloons. So there we go. All right, so now that you've seen how to size them manually, I'm going to do it the way that I always do it for speed, which is I'm going to take out my Conwin and inflate the rest of the balloons so that my camera person doesn't have to stay here for 2 hours while I inflate the slow way. So this is what you're going to want to graduate to. This here is the Conwin Precision Air, and this is probably the most important tool in my business, if I'm being honest. There are some other brands. There's the Legenda. I believe that Premium might have something, and I have always used the Precision Air since I started my business, so I could not tell you anything about those other machines. They might be amazing, they might not be, I don't know because I never used them. So this one is great. It's got a little foot pedal, and there's the black Sharpie. And so I can just set the timer, and then it's going to size it to what I want by counting the seconds of inflation, and all of my balloons are going to be perfectly sized, and it'll take less time than it would to manually size them. We got a foot pedal down here, and I guess I didn't show you that. There we go, it's a foot pedal, and I'm going to work it with my foot, imagine that. Okay, and so basically, same thing, you're just going to put them on. Now you want to make sure that you kind of squish it down a little bit so that you're inflating the bowl of the balloon and not into the neck of the balloon. That's just going to make sure that there's no friction tears, and also just make sure that it inflates kind of in the proper shape and not like a weird wonky neck first kind of thing. All right, and then we're just going to push the button. And there we go, and then again, tying it is always the same. Just like that. Now, this may not be exactly 6.5. I put it to 0.06. Every machine is calibrated a little bit differently. So you don't necessarily need to like stress out like, oh my gosh, I don't know if that's exactly 6 inches. It doesn't matter. All of the balloons are going to be at 0.6. They're all going to be the same size, and that's what's most important. And when you're doing things where you have graduated sizes, it is the ratio between them. So if you go up, 0.1, that's probably going to be enough of a difference that you have that graduated effect of the balloons getting bigger. If you're using a sizer, then yes, the exact number of inches matter, but when you're using an automatic machine, it's more counting by the seconds, and it's an approximate. This might be 6 inches, let's see. Yeah, we got it right. It is 6.5 inches. I got lucky this time. So you see, that's how we can also kind of test it and see what's the size. So I'm going to do all of the rest of them this way. We're going to make I guess we'll make a spiral arch. Should we make a spiral arch, or should we we'll make a spiral arch, because that's what people ask for more than anything else, if we're being honest. So we're just going to do a straight up standard spiral, which means that we're going to have to keep our pattern straight, but we're not going to do anything confusing by splitting the spiral or anything like that. Okay, so I'm just going to sit down and inflate these balloons because we need about 200 balloons for the arch. So that's what we're going to do now, and then, well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to inflate the balloons now. And I will come back to you in a minute. You can keep watching. We'll speed this part up because you don't need to watch me inflate 200 balloons. You guys, it's been a minute since I've done some balloons. As you know, I'm mostly retired. My ex has taken over the business. So my fingers are tender again. A lot of my calluses have, I guess, softened in the time that I haven't done balloons. So I'm getting it's hurting right now, right here. And so what am I going to do about it? Well, as a balloon artist, you always have duct tape around. So I'm just going to take a little bit of duct tape, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to use that much, but I'm just going to like wrap it around my finger, just like that. And then I'm not going to save that piece because I messed it up. But you see, so wherever it starts rubbing, I'm just going to take a little piece of duct tape and I'm going to wrap it around my finger. Now, why didn't I just take a Band-Aid? Something that would fit exactly there, because as the balloons rub, if I had a Band-Aid, if I had something small, it's just going to pull it right off. But when I cover my entire finger like this in duct tape, yeah, it makes it a little bit stiff. It's a little bit harder to move, but it's the powder in the balloons is not going to rip it off. We're going to be okay. So that's what you do when it starts rubbing, okay? There you go. You can preserve your fingers. And yeah, on big jobs, it's not unusual for me to have, 8, 9 fingers covered in duct tape. You do what you got to do. My leg or whatever. Okay. So here we go. Now we have a whole bunch of balloons. You see they're all perfectly sized. All of my balloons, because we're doing a 4-color spiral. And so that's why we really, have to think about the placement of balloons and what's tied to what. So, and you see, it looks like the pink is bigger than the blue because of the different visual weight of the balloons, but they're not. They're exactly the same. So here we have all 4 of our balloons, and now we're going to take our 2 duplets and we're going to make a quad. That quad is the building block of almost everything we do out of balloons. So this is an important thing. It's not hard, but people have asked me, how do you make that quad? So I want to show it to you. Okay, so we're going to take 1 duplet and a second duplet, and we're going to take 1 in each hand, and we're going to smush them together like that. You see? I just laid them on top of each other until the middles kind of come together like that. And then just rotate them around each other, just like that. Okay, and rotate them around a couple of times so that they don't surprise you by coming apart. I mean, if you rotate them around a good 3 or 4 times, like, that's solid, that's good. And we're going to do this to all of our balloons, okay? We're going to turn all of them into quads, and once we have this entire sea of balloons quadded up, and that's usually the job I give to my kids, you know, I'll do all the inflation, and I have them quadding them up as I go, because it's a job that anybody can do. They don't need special balloon skills. You can take somebody who's never touched a balloon before and say, hey, you, make quads, here's how you do it. So let me just show you one more time. 1 duplet, 2 duplets, smush them together, smush them together, and then you're just gonna rotate them around each other, like so. And there we go. Okay, now, something really important for the next step is you need to decide what is your pattern, okay? So, do you want to do, you know, we've got our 4 colors. Do we want to go red, yellow, green, blue? Do we want to go red, yellow, blue, green? Whatever it is, you need to make a decision because you're going to have to arrange the balloons once you have your quad so that they're always hitting in that same way. So red, yellow, blue, green. I kind of like red, yellow, blue, pink, yellow, blue, green. So we got, this is rose, yellow, robin's egg, lime green, just if you were wondering. Okay, now we have them all quadded up. Here we go. Yeah, just relax for a second here. Okay, so now that we have them all quadded up, what we need is some 260s. 260s are our long, skinny balloons. And we need, I think we're going to do sections of 10. And so we're going to need, let's see, we're going to do 5 sections of 10, so we're going to need 10 260s. Some people get really picky about the color. I don't. I find no matter what color, they kind of disappear. So as you see, I'm going to use dark green right now because that's what came out of my hand. And you'll see when we put it all together that it's going to disappear. All right, so here we go. We got 2 260s. That's the long skinny balloons. And we're using this instead of fishing line. You guys ask me, why do I do this a lot? So let me explain to you the reason. The reason that we're using the 260s is because latex to latex is going to have less friction than if you're using fishing line to latex, which can cause micro tears, which is going to cause a small leak, which means a slow leak means that you're going to leave the event thinking that everything looks perfect, and then your client is going to call you and say, oh my God, the balloons are down, they're shrinking. And what causes that is a tiny, tiny little tear, usually around the neck of the balloon. So the 260s, it doesn't happen as much because it's a latex to latex instead of whatever the nylon or the plastic or whatever the fishing line is made out of. So here we go. And I generally tie it nipple to nozzle like this. So just tied in a knot like that, okay? Really simple. And the reason that I do it like that is just because then, I don't know, I guess it's more consistent that I usually try to start each garland on a nozzle. I don't know why, to me it just feels more secure. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, now we have to decide on our pattern. So I'm thinking, what do we say, pink, yellow, blue, green? Pink, yellow, blue, green, okay? So this is our pattern. We're going to have to make sure that every single quad is like this. And I figured we'll come in and pick this up for you. Or actually, if you want it with the balloons around, do you want me to do it again right now?
Do you have a...
Yeah. Do you want a different color?
Whatever one's going to work.
It doesn't matter. What's going to stand out better for the camera?
For the camera... Probably the orange against the purple because they're complementary.
Okay, orange and purple. Okay. You have a good enough angle there?
I am close up to where your hands are right now.
Perfect. Good.
Okay, nipple to nozzle. All right, now you're going to be lacing these.
I'm going to be moving like all over the place in a minute.
Okay.
In a minute here. So okay.
Wider.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the nozzle. So pink, yellow, blue, green. We said pink, yellow, blue, green, right? So this is the tricky part with the 4-color spiral, is keeping these always going in the same order. Pink, yellow, blue, green. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm basically just going to, you see I'm holding it here on one end, and then I'm kind of wrapping it figure 8 a couple of times. And that's going to secure it. So now what I have is I've got this string coming out of this quad, okay? And yeah, the quad's going to like bounce out of place and stuff. Don't worry about it. Once you start adding more layers and you put it on a counter pressure, then it's going to hold together. Okay, so now I gotta get up. Okay, so you want to arrange your balloons in the right order: pink, yellow, blue, green. And then you're just going to decide, are you rotating to the right or the left? Be consistent. Okay, so I'm going to rotate to the right. I'm pulling up my 260, and I'm going to figure 8 it a couple of times around the quad. Okay, now let's take the next one, and we're just going to continue doing this, and we're going to do them into groups of 10. All right, pink, yellow, blue, green. Pink, yellow, blue, green. There we go. Okay. So you see, just figure 8ing it around, just like so. I know it's hard. My hand hides some of it, but it's hard to hold it. Now I put my 10th quad onto this garland, and you see at this size with 6.5 inches, 10 quads is about 5 feet, just under. I'm 5'2", so if you want to use me as your guide. And now what I'm going to do is I just kind of want to secure it so that no quads are going to fall off. So I'm going to kind of figure 8 it around the quad underneath it. And I'm just going to kind of do that a couple of times to just secure it all together. Okay, and that way, when I'm transporting it or whatever, I can throw them around, and you see it's not going to fall apart. It's pretty stable. Okay, so here we go. We have our small garland, and we're just simply going to put it on. So the ground is hot, so I'm trying not to put it on the ground as much as I can, but they are pretty squishy. It'll take it. Look. It's in the 90s here today. So I just want you to see, when you underinflate the balloons, they can take some abuse. Now, notice that we are using all light colors. I purposely did not use black today. Although it probably would have been fun to see me wrestling with balloons that are popping, I didn't want to do it. Okay, so I'm simply going to just kind of open this up and just kind of squish this in. Disappears in there, and then we'll kind of pull it down to get to the bottom here. And then you want to take a couple of them and just kind of rotate the balloon each other. That's gonna lock it in there. Okay, so you guys might notice that I straightened the arch out. Why did I do that? Because it's a lot easier to attach to a straight line than a curve. And if we're doing it as a straight line, we don't have to try to cheat where it becomes a curve. Sometimes where it curves, you have to cheat by putting an extra duplet so you don't have a hole there. But if we're going to do it when it's a straight line, we're not going to have that issue. So this is another reason that we get down on the ground. Okay, now, the important thing here is that we match them up perfectly. We want to make sure that we don't reverse the color order, right? So I've got yellows laying on top of pink. Now you may notice, or you may not, the camera may not show the dirt. So when we're all done, we can just take a chamois or a glasses cleaning cloth, and we'll just rub them all down, and we'll get the fine dirt off of it and stuff like that. There is static, dust and dirt is gonna stick to the balloons. It happens. All right, so just like we did before, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Let me see if I can shove this back a little bit. Okay, and here's the tricky part and the important part is to match your pattern. And this is where things are most likely to go wrong, is when you're putting on the next section. I know my shadow's over it, I'm sorry. Okay, there, and look how easy that was. We're at the curve. That would have been a nightmare if we didn't have this straight. It really would have been. Trust me on this. Scissors in our back pockets. We cut the extra ones off. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. No big whoop. Uh-oh, a balloon popped. What am I going to do? Well, luckily I got some extra pieces here. So, I'm going to, you could just pull out a new balloon and do it that way, but I'm gonna undo a quad. Oh, my eyes are so watering. My lotion is like going into my eyes. I'm crying. It's not because I don't love you. It's the lotion in the eyes in the sun. Okay, and I'm just gonna pop that balloon. So you see these balloons are getting kind of fragile because I am in direct sunlight. The worst conditions to do balloons under, get yourself some shade. The only reason I'm doing it like this is for you guys. I hope you appreciate it. All right, and all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in here and I'm just gonna tie this in. New, like it never happened. I got one more I gotta fix over here too. Okay, so here we have the arch loaded. We have me schwitzing like crazy here in the heat. under the sun, and now we're gonna put it up. I'm just gonna stick my hand in and grab one pole, stick my hand in and grab another pole, and walk it back. And now I'll walk it out. Okay, so now this is where you would ask the client, you know, how big do you want it? Do you need 2 people to stand in it? Do you need 3 people? If you were dealing with a height constraint and this was too much, then you simply would have just brought the piece down and taped it lower on the poles. So maybe you would have had 2 feet of overlap on each side. So that's how you can customize it. And then of course you want to put your weights. So you see you're just going to kind of tuck them under the balloons. And then if you were to, ow, don't drop it on your finger. And then if you were to cover it with some plastic tablecloth in a matching color, it would all completely disappear. So here we go, the small outdoor or indoor balloon arch. Now, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Guys, I'm going to be doing all kinds of things. Sometimes it'll be balloons, sometimes it'll be about books, sometimes it'll be Shape Up Sandy, it'll be other things that I'm interested in. You never know what's going to come up. Just subscribe, come along for the journey. I promise you'll like it. You want to share this video with everyone you know. You want to leave me a comment. What else do you want to see? Did you like what I did? Do you appreciate me sweating out here for you? You know, give me some love. Anyways, guys, until next time, just go forth and balloonify.